What do you do when your wife turns your pain into content? I'm Gideon Rusk. Ashley and her brothers called it a prank. At a Loves Off I-40 near Amarillo, 300 miles from home, they waited until I stepped out to pump gas, then tore off in my truck, laughing and filming like I was some loser on their channel. 107 degrees. No wallet, no phone, no water, just Doritos, crumpled bills, and a highway shimmering like it's melting. I heard them cackling as the dust settled. Here's what they didn't plan. I never went back. 5 years later, she tracked me down, then froze when she saw who was standing behind me. And if you've ever been disrespected like that, hit subscribe and stay with me. Because when you see who was behind me, you'll understand why she froze. Before I tell you who was standing behind me, you need to understand what my life looked like before I disappeared. I was the guy who clocked in, clocked out, paid the mortgage, kept the lights on. I'm not flashy, I'm steady. Dinner on the table, oil changed on time, bills sorted on the kitchen counter like a quiet promise. We're okay. Ashley wasn't built for quiet. She loved memories, which really meant her phone was always up. Front camera, back camera, little red recording dot like a heartbeat. Even brushing our teeth felt like it needed a clip. Then came her brothers, Mike and Danny, two grown men chasing views like it was oxygen. Every hangout had that same sound, laughter first, and the lens pointed right at me. I told myself it was love. Support her. Be a good sport. Don't be that guy. But deep down, I felt it, like a splinter under the skin. I wasn't her husband. I was the punchline. And one night, it clicked. They weren't laughing with me. They were laughing at me. The first time it really hit me was at a backyard get-together. One of Ashley's friends, cheap beer, paper plates, someone grilling burgers like nothing in the world was wrong. Ashley slipped an arm around my waist, sweet as pie, and said, "Babe, come here." Her smile looked normal. That's the scary part. Normal. Then Mike stepped behind a patio chair with his phone held up, already recording. Danny was grinning like he knew the ending. Ashley pointed at a cooler and told me to grab drinks. The second I bent down, she yanked the waistband of my shorts, hard. Not enough to expose me, just enough to make me jump, spill a drink, and look stupid in front of everyone. People laughed. Someone whistled. Mike's laugh was the loudest. High, ugly, hungry. I kept my face straight and said quietly, "Don't do that." Mike leaned in like I was the problem and said, "Relax, man. It's funny." I swallowed it because I didn't want a scene, because I didn't want to look weak. And right then I realized something colder. They weren't joking. They were testing how much disrespect I'd take and how far they could push next. After that backyard thing, I told myself it was a one-off, a dumb moment. People drink, they get loud, they get stupid. I could let it go. Then Ashley showed up at my office. It was a Tuesday, mid-morning. Fluorescent lights, burnt coffee, the kind of day where you're just trying to finish your work and get home. I walked out of a meeting room and there she was in the lobby, smiling too big, holding balloons like a birthday clown, except it wasn't my birthday. Mike and Danny were right behind her with phones up, already recording. She called my name like she was on a stage. People turned. Coworkers leaned out of cubicles. Someone laughed before they even knew why. Ashley launched into this little performance, loud, playful, making me the serious husband who needed to loosen up. I smiled because that's what a man does when he's cornered in public. You keep your face, you swallow it. That night the video hit the internet. Comments rolled in. Poor guy. What a stiff. He looks miserable. And I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, realizing her love didn't exist without an audience. The next one wasn't loud. That's what made it worse. It started small, my scalp itching in the shower, like I'd switched shampoos and my skin was just adjusting. Then it burned. Then clumps came out in my hand. I remember standing there, water running, staring at the drain like it was stealing pieces of me. Ashley acted surprised for about 30 seconds. Then she bit her lip like she was trying not to laugh. Mike didn't even pretend. He just said, "No way," and lifted his phone. Danny asked if I was going to commit to the bit and shave it all. So I did. In the bathroom mirror, I ran the clippers over my head until I didn't recognize the man looking back. No hair to hide behind, no softness, just me, exposed. Ashley posted a before and after with laughing emojis. Mike bragged about engagement like it was a promotion, and I sat on the edge of the bed, skin still hot, thinking one cold thought. If I react, they win. If I don't, what am I even doing here? The call came while I was at my desk, mid-email, coffee going cold. I answered and heard screaming, real, ragged, panicked. Danny's voice cracked, yelling my name, then Ashley, crying, breathless. Someone in the background shouting, "She's bleeding!" My whole body went hot. No thoughts, just instinct. Pure survival mode. I grabbed my keys and drove like a man chasing a fire. Red lights didn't matter. Speed limits didn't matter. All I could see was her, hurt, dying, because that's what they planted in my head. By the time I hit the hospital parking lot, my hands were shaking so hard I could barely get the door open. I ran inside, scanning faces, searching for a nurse, a stretcher, anything. And there she was. Ashley, sitting in the waiting room, legs crossed, eating chips from a vending machine like it was movie night. She looked up and said, smiling, "Gotcha." Mike stepped out from behind a pillar, phone inches from my face, whispering, "This reaction is gold." That's when I realized they weren't just humiliating me anymore. They were playing with the part of me that's built to protect. I didn't yell. I didn't even have the energy. I just stood there, chest tight, like someone had punched the air out of me and left the bruise on the inside. When I finally turned to leave, Ashley rushed after me. The tears showed up fast, too fast. She grabbed my arm like she was trying to anchor me, like she was afraid I'd slip out of her hands and she'd lose the story. "I'm sorry," she said. "I swear, no more. I didn't think it would feel that real." Mike and Danny did their usual thing, hands up, shrugging. "We went too far, bro. It was just a joke." And I wanted to believe her. Not because it made sense, because I needed my home to be a home again. I needed someone on my side. So I forgave her and told myself I was being sensitive. I told myself, be a man, let it go. But after that, every room felt different. Every laugh felt aimed. I started scanning corners, reflections, pockets. Where's the phone? Where's the camera? Her apology didn't feel like love. It felt like a contract for the next prank. After the hospital stunt, I stopped giving them big reactions. I thought maybe that would starve it. Instead, they escalated. One night we got home late and Ashley said, "Babe, can you grab the toolbox from the garage?" Her voice was sweet, normal. I walked in barefoot, the concrete cold under my feet, that sour mix of gasoline and old cardboard in the air. The door shut behind me with a soft click. Too soft. I tried the handle. Locked. At first I laughed once, like maybe I'd misheard the whole thing. Then the silence set in. No footsteps, no gotcha. Just crickets, a distant hum of traffic, and insects tapping the window like tiny fists. My phone wasn't on me. Of course it wasn't. I sat on the floor beside my workbench and watched my breath fog the air. All night the same thought kept cycling. They're waiting for me to break. Morning came. The door swung open and they burst out laughing. I stood up slow, looked at them. No yelling, no begging. Mike's smile dropped. "No reaction?" he said. "Man, that's boring." And I realized something ugly. When you don't perform, they don't stop. They get angry. And then they decided to aim at the one place I couldn't ignore. A few days later, my mom called in tears. Not sniffles. Real crying. The kind that makes you hear panic in every breath. "Gideon," she said, "your father told me you lost your job. Are you okay? Are you going to lose the house?" My stomach went cold. I could picture my dad at their kitchen table doing the math in his head, ready to drain his savings because his son needed help. That's the kind of man he is. That's how I was raised. I asked, "Who told you that?" Even though I already knew. Ashley's voice floated in the background on speaker, too cheerful, too excited, like this was a game night. Mike was laughing. Danny was whispering, Wait, let her talk." I spent 2 hours undoing the damage, explaining, reassuring, swallowing my pride while my mother apologized for worrying. Then Ashley posted the clip with a caption, "His parents are so sweet." Like my family's fear was a cute accessory. That's when it hit me, harder than any prank. They weren't just disrespecting me, they were disrespecting my home. And once they can laugh at your home, they'll leave you with nothing but the punchline. After what they did to my parents, something in me stayed tight all the time, like a fist I couldn't unclench. I didn't argue, I didn't threaten, I just watched. A week later, we were driving for a weekend getaway. Ashley picked the playlist, bright and bouncy like nothing had happened. Mike and Danny rode in the back, whispering and snickering, trading looks in the rearview mirror like they were passing notes in class. I said, calm on purpose. What's so funny? Ashley leaned over and kissed my cheek. Sweet, sticky, performative. Nothing, babe. You're just being paranoid. Her voice had that fake honey in it, the tone she used right before she made me look stupid. I smelled it then. Not cologne, not gas. A script. But I still pulled off at a Love's on I-40 near Amarillo. Still got out. Still started pumping like a man trying to prove he wasn't broken. Standing there with the nozzle in my hand, I told myself, if they pull anything, this is where I stop. I didn't know stop was about to mean something else entirely. The heat hit my face like a hammer the second I stepped out. West Texas sun, flat sky, the kind of glare that makes the asphalt shimmer like it's alive. I started the pump and heard the car doors thud shut behind me. Quick, sharp, final. Then the laughter. Not a normal laugh. That high, breathless kind that says you're not a person, you're a clip. I turned and saw Mike already filming through the passenger window, phone up, eyes bright. Danny leaned out and yelled, "Good luck!" like I'd just lost a bet. Ashley didn't even look back. She waved like it was cute. And then my truck lurched forward. My truck, tires spitting gravel, dust blooming up in a thick orange cloud. For a second I couldn't move. My brain tried to call it a joke because that's safer than the truth. But my pockets were light. No wallet, no phone, no water. Just the pump clicking and the desert air sucking the moisture out of my mouth. That's when it landed, cold and clean. This wasn't a prank. This was abandonment. I walked into the Love's like the air conditioning could fix everything. It hit my skin, and I almost felt human again, until my throat reminded me how dry I was. The kind of dry where swallowing feels like sandpaper. The clerk behind the counter was older, leathery, the type of man who's seen every kind of stupid roll-through on 4 wheels. He looked at my empty hands, my face, the way I kept checking the window like a dog waiting for its owner. "They leave you?" he asked. Not rude, just factual. I nodded once. I asked to use the phone. He slid an old receiver across the counter like it weighed nothing. I dialed Ashley from memory. 4 rings, voicemail, that bubbly recording, "I can't come to the phone because I'm probably making memories," made my stomach turn. I tried Mike, tried Danny, straight to voicemail, like they'd rehearsed it. "I don't have cash," I said, because pride didn't matter right then. The clerk grabbed a bottle of water and pushed it toward me. "On the house." I drank it in one go, like I was swallowing the truth. I'm alone out here. After the water, I went back outside and sat on the curb by the front doors, where the shade barely did anything. Trucks rolled in and out. Diesel engines rumbled. Tires hissed on hot pavement. Every few minutes the sun felt like it moved closer. My mind tried to solve it like a math problem. How far to the next town? How long I could last? How much skin would burn before my brain started slipping? I watched the highway and imagined them coming back, camera ready, waiting for me to lose it, waiting for me to beg, to cry, to give them the perfect clip. And I hated myself for even picturing it, because that meant they still owned a piece of my head. I remember staring at the orange dust settled on my boots and thinking, I'm a grown man, I'm not entertainment, not a prop. Then everything went quiet inside me, not numb, clear. Here's the paradox. The moment I accepted nobody was coming, I felt free. I wasn't going to stand there and be rescued on camera. I made a decision that didn't feel loud at all. It felt cold, permanent. I wasn't waiting anymore. I don't know how long I sat there watching the highway. Long enough for my shirt to stick to my back. Long enough for my thoughts to stop racing and start walking in a straight line. Then a semi rolled in, slow, heavy, like it owned the road. Air brakes sighed. The driver climbed down, late 50s, thick forearms, John Deere cap faded from sun. He didn't come at me with questions. He just looked, really looked, at the way I was sitting. the way my hands kept flexing like they were still gripping that gas nozzle. "You all right, son?" he asked. That was it. One sentence, no judgment, no curiosity dressed up as kindness. I tried to speak and my throat cracked. "I need to get out of here," I said. "Anywhere." He nodded like he understood exactly what anywhere meant. He jerked his thumb toward the cab. "Hop in." I stood up slow, legs stiff, and walked to that passenger door like I was walking out of my own skin. Before I climbed in, I glanced back at the love sign, bright and harmless, and I saw myself sitting there, small, stranded, waiting to be laughed at. Then I stepped up into the truck. That was the first cut. He told me his name was Earl Patterson after we'd been driving a while, like names were something you earned with silence. He didn't pry, didn't ask, "What happened?" That kind of respect felt rare, almost painful. The cab smelled like coffee and diesel and old leather. The road noise became a steady hum that smoothed the edges of my panic. My stomach growled loud enough to embarrass me, and my head still throbbed from the heat like the sun had left fingerprints on my skull. Earl reached into a cooler without looking and handed me a sandwich and a sports drink. "Eat," he said. "Live first. Think later." I unwrapped it with shaking fingers and took a bite that tasted like survival. And that's when the anger finally showed up. Not hot, not reckless, clean and sharp. And because it hit me, they didn't just take my truck. They gambled with basic human stuff. Water, shade, safety. The part of a man that's wired to get home. I stared out at the flat land sliding by and realized something I couldn't unknow. I didn't even want revenge. I wanted my life back, my peace, my dignity, and for the first time that felt possible. Somewhere past the state line, Earl plugged in a spare charger he kept for whoever needs it. My phone, dead all day, flickered back to life like it hadn't just been abandoned with me. The screen lit up with a flood of missed calls, texts stacking on top of each other. Ashley, Mike, Danny, over and over, like a fist pounding a door. For half a second, my thumb hovered. I wanted to look. Not because I missed them, because I wanted to know what story they were telling now. He's fine. He's dramatic. He'll come back. I could hear it in their voices without even opening a message. I locked the screen and set it face down on the dashboard. Earl glanced over, kept his eyes on the road. "If you're cutting ties," he said, "you cut 'em clean. No loose ends." I didn't have my ID, didn't have my cards, didn't even have a plan that made sense. But I had one thing I'd never had with them. Silence I controlled. And that silence started to feel like a weapon. 2 days later, Earl dropped me in a big city with a truck stop on the edge of it. Bright lights, diesel stink, people moving like nobody had time to notice your pain. He handed me a couple bills, folded tight. "Pay it forward," he said, like he wasn't saving my life in real time. I nodded, because thank you didn't feel big enough. I found a cheap motel with a buzzing neon sign and a door that didn't quite shut unless you kicked it. I took cash jobs, hauling scrap, unloading boxes, anything that paid at the end of the day, and didn't ask questions. I kept my head down. No social media, no new photos, no location tags. I learned to move like a ghost on purpose. I emailed my old job from a burner account and asked for an unpaid leave. Family emergency, short and clean. They approved it. And at night, when the room went quiet, I'd hear it again. Ashley's laugh, Mike's wheeze, Danny's "good luck," like it was trapped behind my ribs. Leaving them was easy. Getting them out of my head was the hard part. After a few weeks of living like a shadow, I walked into a legal aid office with sweaty palms and a name I wasn't sure I wanted to say out loud. Fluorescent lights again, plastic chairs, people holding folders like life was something you could staple together. The attorney was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a calm voice. She listened without flinching. When I finished, she nodded once and said the word I'd been avoiding like it was poison. Divorce. I laughed under my breath. Not because it was funny, because it was real. "I'm not ready," I told her. "Not yet." She asked why. And the ugly truth came out. I wanted them to feel it. That hollow panic of being left. I wanted Ashley to wake up and realize the man she used for content was gone. I wanted Mike and Danny to stare at their phones and get nothing back. The attorney didn't scold me. She just said, You don't have to disappear forever, but you do need to cut the tie clean, legally. I walked out with pamphlets in my pocket and a plan that wasn't finished. Because I wasn't just choosing paperwork. I was stuck between old love and my own self-respect. I left again, this time on purpose, not in panic. California wasn't some fantasy. It was just quieter, salt air, normal people walking dogs, grocery stores where nobody knew my face. I found a small coastal town and a job at a tech company that cared more about my code than my backstory. I kept my answers short. I showed up. I worked. I went home. Simple. But the noise inside me didn't stop. It just got clearer. That's how I ended up in a therapist's office, sitting across from Dr. Patricia Monroe, a woman who spoke like she'd heard every kind of denial a man can build around pain. Third session, she leaned forward slightly and said, "Gideon, what you're describing is emotional abuse." I almost corrected her. No, it was pranks. It was jokes. I'm not that guy. She didn't blink. It wasn't a joke if it made you afraid in your own home. One sentence. That's all it took. It felt like someone finally turned a key in a lock I didn't know I was wearing. Therapy didn't feel like talking. It felt like digging. Dr. Monroe would ask a simple question. When did you start walking on eggshells? And suddenly I was back in my old kitchen, listening for laughter like it was a smoke alarm. I realized how often I'd adjusted myself to keep the peace. I'd softened my opinions. I'd swallowed the words that wanted to come out. I'd trained my face into a polite smile so nobody could call me uptight. That's not love. That's compliance. So we practice something that sounds stupid until you need it, saying no without apologizing. No, I'm not doing that. No, you can't film me. No, that's not funny. The first few times my heart raced like I was committing a crime. Then it slowed. Then it stopped. And weirdly, the distant sound of laughter stopped scaring me. It just became noise again. One night I called my parents. I hadn't heard my mom's voice in too long. She didn't scold me. She just said soft, "We've been waiting for you." And I felt it, clear as day. I still had somewhere I belonged. I didn't need Ashley for that. I met Sarah Chen on a random weekday at a coffee shop near the water. Not a cute story, just normal life. People typing, cups clinking, rain jackets hanging off chairs. She asked if she could share my table because every seat was taken. I said sure. She had a neat stack of papers and a pen she clicked when she read. Lawyer energy, but not loud about it. We started talking the way strangers do when neither one is trying too hard. Work, weather, the price of gas. She laughed at something I said, quiet, genuine, and I felt my shoulders drop without realizing they'd been up by my ears for years. For the first time in a long time, I laughed back. Not a keep the peace laugh, a real one. The thing about Sarah was the way she looked at me. No scanning for a reaction, no waiting for a punchline, just present, like I was a person, not content. And that scared me. Because if I told her the truth about Ashley, the pranks, the desert, there was a part of me that believed it would poison the whole thing, so I kept it tucked away. For now. But even then, I knew what I was craving. A kind of love that doesn't need a camera to exist. I told Sarah on a quiet night after dinner, when the dishes were drying and the room felt safe enough to hold the truth. My voice stayed steady until it didn't. I didn't dress it up. I didn't try to sound tough. I just laid it out. Ashley, the constant filming, the pranks that weren't pranks, the way I started flinching at laughter, the desert, the dust, the heat. I watched Sarah's face as I talked, waiting for disgust or curiosity. What I got was something else. She went still. Not nosy still. Not tell me more still. More like hurt on my behalf. She didn't interrupt. She didn't ask for the punchline. She let the silence sit where it needed to sit. Then she said, simple and flat like a fact, "You deserve respect." It hit me harder than any insult ever had. My throat tightened. My eyes burned. Because nobody had said that to me in years, not in a way that mattered. I wanted to stay in that moment forever. But I didn't tell her everything. I didn't tell her I still wasn't divorced. Life started to stack up the right way after that. Small wins, steady paychecks, sleep that didn't get shredded by anxiety, mornings where I didn't brace for a gotcha. I got healthier, calmer. I built myself back into someone I could recognize. And Sarah, quiet, solid Sarah, kept nudging the one thing I kept stepping around. "You should close it legally," she said one afternoon, like she was talking about a loose board on a porch. "File. End it." I told her I would. Soon. Always soon. The truth was messier. Part of me was scared. Paperwork meant opening doors. Court meant being seen. It meant Ashley could find me for real. But another part of me, an uglier part, wanted that. I wanted Ashley to stumble onto the life I rebuilt without her. I wanted her to realize I didn't just survive, I improved. Sarah caught it in my tone and gave me a look. "That's petty," she said, almost smiling. "But I get it." And that's when it clicked in my chest. I wasn't holding on because I loved Ashley. I was holding on because a wound still wanted justice. Sarah and I got engaged on a random, ordinary evening. No crowd, no big speech. Just the two of us on a quiet stretch of sidewalk near the water, her hand warm in mine, the ocean doing that steady breathing thing it does. I remember thinking, this is what real life feels like. No performance, no audience, no phone shoved in your face. I started picturing a home that wasn't staged, Sunday mornings, a kid's shoes by the door someday, a family that didn't need likes to prove it was happy. And then reality tapped me on the shoulder. Ashley wasn't a person in my life anymore, but her name was still on paper, a shadow in the fine print. So I did what men do when something feels off. I started collecting facts, late nights, laptop glow, coffee going bitter. I searched their channels, scrolled old posts, saved screenshots, and there it was, the desert prank video, still up, still running ads, still cashing checks. My stomach turned, because it wasn't a memory to them, it was revenue. They monetized my pain like it was a product. 2 days later, my phone rang with an unknown number, local area code. For a second, I thought it was spam. I almost ignored it. I picked up anyway. "Is this Gideon Rusk?" A woman's voice, professional, clipped. "My name is Jennifer Torres. I'm a private investigator. I've been hired by Ashley Rusk to locate you." Everything in my body tightened at once, like the past grabbed me by the collar. I didn't say hello. I didn't say how. I just felt my heartbeat slam against my ribs. Jennifer kept talking, something about willingness, a message, closure. I heard maybe half of it. The rest was drowned out by one simple fact. They were close. I ended the call without a word and sat there staring at my own hand like it belonged to someone else. Sarah didn't panic. She looked at me once and said, calm as steel, "Okay, we handle it today." And in that moment, I knew the waiting was over. The legal limbo, the half plan, the fantasy that I could stay invisible forever. I felt the past climbing up my neck, so I finally turned around and faced it. "We file," I said, "right now." Sarah didn't get emotional about it. She got organized, which honestly felt more dangerous. She opened her laptop, pulled up a clean document, and started naming things the way a surgeon names bones. "Abandonment," she said. "Cruelty. Pattern of abuse." Hearing those words out loud made my skin prickle. For years, I'd called it jokes, drama, content. Sarah called it what it was. I gave her everything I had. Dates scribbled in a notebook, a rough timeline, links to their channels, screen recordings, screenshots of comments laughing at me like I wasn't a man, just a meme. She dragged the desert prank video into a folder and hit download like she was locking it in a safe. I watched myself on those clips, my face confused, then tense, then trying to smile through it. It was like looking at a guy I failed to protect. Sarah finally stopped typing and looked at me. "Gideon, are you sure you want to go this hard?" My throat tightened, but my voice came out steady. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I want accountability." And right then, something shifted. The pain stopped being fog. It became evidence. And evidence is power. We prepared for her like you prepare for bad weather. Quietly, seriously, like pretending it won't come is how people get hurt. Sarah printed everything, labeled folders, sealed a service packet in an envelope so crisp it looked like it could cut skin. She mapped out what happens if Ashley shows up, what I say, what I don't say, who I call, where I stand. Then came the part that surprised me. Sarah made me practice. Not courtroom lines, simple lines. No. Stop. This is my attorney. I'm not discussing this here. At first my voice shook. I hated that it shook. I'd spent years being trained to apologize for having feelings. Sarah kept it gentle but firm. Don't explain, she said. Don't negotiate. Don't perform. That night I dreamed about the loves again, the heat, the dust, the laughter. I woke up with my jaw clenched and realized what this was really about. Not winning, not punishing. Survival, dignity. The next day, I walked into Sarah's office building like I was walking into the final round of a fight I didn't start. And this time, I wasn't the guy left behind. I was the one holding the door. I was sitting in the lobby like it was any other Tuesday. Polished marble floors, a fake plant in the corner, that clean, cold smell office buildings have, like money and bleach mixed together. My hands were steady on the outside. Inside, everything was wired. Then I heard the elevator. That soft ding shouldn't mean anything, but my chest tightened anyway. The doors slid open and Ashley stepped out. She looked different, thinner, older around the eyes, hair cut shorter like she'd tried on a new life and it didn't fit. The clothes were expensive, but they hung wrong, like the confidence wasn't inside them anymore. For half a second she scanned the lobby, ready to perform whatever apology speech she'd practiced. Then she saw me. Her whole body froze, like someone hit pause. The air left her face. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. And her phone slipped from her hand and smacked the floor, hard, loud, final. The sound echoed off the walls like a period at the end of a sentence. She whispered my name like it hurt. And in that 1 second, I watched every script she'd brought with her shatter, because this wasn't a comment section. This was real life, and I wasn't alone anymore. Ashley rushed toward me like she could close the distance and rewrite the last 5 years with her hands. Tears popped up fast, too clean, too timed, like she'd been saving them for this exact moment. "Oh my God, Gideon," she said. "I've been looking everywhere. I was young and dumb. I didn't understand." I didn't move. I didn't step back. I just looked at her like she was a stranger trying to sell me something. "Why are you here?" I asked. Her breath hitched. "To apologize, to make it right. Mike and Danny feel horrible. We all do. We deleted the videos, You deleted them 2 months ago," I said, voice flat. "After 5 years of ads. After you got paid." Her tears stopped for a split second, just long enough for the real Ashley to peek through. The calculation. The anger that I wasn't giving her a scene. She tried again, softer. "Please, I didn't mean to hurt you." I held her eyes. "You didn't mean to stop either." And right there, before she could turn herself into the victim, I shut the door in her face, without raising my voice once. For a second, Ashley held the sorry face like it might still work. Then she realized it wasn't landing. No tears from me, no shaking, no begging, no big reaction for her to grab and twist into a story. And that's when her voice changed. The softness dropped out of it like a mask slipping. Her eyes hardened. "You're really gonna do this?" she snapped. "After 5 years you just ghost me and act like I'm the monster?" I didn't answer. She stepped closer, lowering her voice the way people do when they want to cut you without witnesses noticing. "You're pathetic," she said. "All this because you couldn't take a joke. A real man would have laughed." That old version of me, the one trained to defend himself, felt the urge to speak, to explain, to prove I wasn't weak. But I didn't. I just said quiet and flat, "I'm not playing this game anymore." My calm hit her harder than shouting ever could. She blinked, unsettled, searching my face for the man she used to control. Then the elevator behind me dinged, the doors opened, and Sarah stepped out. Ashley saw Sarah and everything on her face tangled at once, jealousy, fear, and the sudden panic of realizing she wasn't holding the room anymore. She took in Sarah's suit, her posture, the way she stood beside me like she belonged there. "Who is that?" Ashley demanded, but her voice wasn't sharp now. It was thin. Sarah didn't rush. She didn't smile. She just extended a hand like this was a business meeting, not a wreck. "Sarah Chen," she said. "I'm Gideon's fiancée and his attorney." The word fiancé landed first. You could see it. Ashley's mouth opened and closed like her brain was buffering. Her eyes flicked to my hand, then back to Sarah like she was trying to calculate what she'd missed in the last 5 years. Sarah opened her bag and pulled out a folder, neat, thick, labeled. She held it out without drama. "These are the filings," she said. "Divorce, and the supporting evidence." Ashley stared at the folder like it might burn her. Then her hands started to shake when she took it. And right there, right on schedule, the smile she came in with finally died the way I promised it would. Ashley snapped upright like she could muscle the moment back into her control. Her fingers crushed the folder's edge. "You can't do this," she said, loud enough for the lobby to hear. "You can't just disappear for 5 years and show up with this." Sarah didn't raise her voice. She didn't match the energy. She just met Ashley's eyes and said, calm and final, "We already did." Ashley's face twisted. "Do you have any idea what you did to me?" she fired back, switching targets. "The humiliation, people asking where my husband went, my family thinking you were dead. I was the one getting judged. Me." I looked at her for a long beat. The marble floor reflected her heels, her shaking hands, the mess of her performance slipping. "Good," I said quietly. "Now you understand a piece of it." That word hit her like a slap because it wasn't loud, it wasn't emotional, it wasn't content. She glanced around like she expected someone to be filming, like she needed a camera to turn this into a story where she could still win. But there was no lens, no audience, no rescue. And you could see it in her eyes, the moment she realized she was finally alone with what she'd done. Sarah opened the folder like she was opening a file in court, not a conversation. "If you contest this," she said evenly, "we proceed, and all supporting evidence becomes part of the record. Public." Ashley's breathing changed, shorter, faster, because she understood what public really meant, not just gossip, sponsors, partnerships, comments that don't go away, her brother's channels, her parents seeing the clips, her name attached to the word abuse instead of prank. You could watch her doing math in her head, reputation, money, family, trying to find an angle. I didn't give her one. I stepped forward just enough to make her look at me, not Sarah. "You didn't love me," I said, voice low and steady. "You loved what I provided. The truck, the paycheck, the stability, the target." Ashley's mouth opened like she had a comeback ready. Then nothing came out. Silence can be a confession when someone spent years talking their way out of consequences. And standing there, hearing nothing from her for the first time, I felt it, like a weight sliding off my shoulders. 5 years of it. Set down, finally. Ashley stood there for one more second like she was waiting for the universe to hand her a reset button. Then she turned and walked back toward the elevator, shoulders shaking, crying, acting, both. Honestly, I didn't care anymore. I watched the doors close on her like a chapter sealing itself. Sarah's hand found mine, warm, steady. "You okay?" she asked. I surprised myself with the answer. For the first time, I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." We didn't celebrate. We didn't talk big. We just left the building and walked to a small cafe down the street. Outside seating, soft California sun, the kind of breeze that smells like ocean even when you can't see it. The normalcy felt unreal, like my body didn't know it was allowed. Sarah ordered coffee like today was just another day. That's what grounded me. Her calm made my panic look childish. Then my phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number at first. Then a name. Mike. One line. "Gideon, please. Can we talk?" And I felt it, clear as a knife edge. Ashley was gone. But the hunt wasn't over. I didn't reply to Mike. I just stared at the screen like it was a snake that hadn't decided whether to bite. Another buzz. Another number. Danny. "Dude, we messed up. Don't sue us. We'll pay you back for everything. Please." The words looked polite, even remorseful. but all I could see was Amarillo dust and two grown men hanging out my truck windows laughing like my life was a punchline. That laugh was burned into me. You don't oops your way out of that. I set the phone down and felt the old reflex rise. Explain, smooth it over, be the reasonable one. That's how I survived them for years. That's how they kept a leash on me. Sarah watched my face and said quietly, "They're going to try to manipulate you. They'll sound sorry, then they'll get angry when sorry doesn't work." I nodded once. Then I did the simplest, cleanest thing I'd done in a long time. I blocked Mike. I blocked Danny. No speech, no lecture, no closure for them, just a locked door. And as my finger hit block, I realized cutting contact wasn't punishment, it was protection. Because men like them don't ask to talk, they ask to get their control back. The divorce process didn't explode the way people think it does. It didn't look like a movie. It looked like emails, deadlines, and Ashley slowly realizing she didn't have the leverage she used to. At first she postured, little threats, little, "you can't do this." But every time Sarah mentioned public record, Ashley's tone softened. You could hear the fear under it. Fear of sponsors. Fear of her brother's channel getting dragged. Fear of her name getting stapled to the word abuse instead of prank. Through lawyers, she offered a deal. She'd sign, no contest, if I dropped the civil suit. "Let's just end this," her attorney said, like it was mutual. I sat with it longer than I expected. Part of me wanted to keep pressing, keep watching them squirm, but another part of me understood something clean and painful. Dragging it out meant staying tied to them, still orbiting their mess. So I chose the thing that finally felt like power. I chose to end it. Not because they deserved mercy, because I deserved freedom. And the biggest win wasn't beating them. It was not being connected anymore. After the papers were signed, I didn't stalk their accounts the way I used to. I wasn't hungry for it. But the internet has a way of bringing things to your doorstep anyway. One afternoon, a buddy sent me a link. Mike's channel, once loud, cocky, full of sponsors, looked like a house after a storm. Views down, comments turned toxic. Every upload had the same question screaming through it. What happened to the desert guy? People weren't laughing anymore. They were angry. They wanted answers, accountability. Danny vanished first. Deleted posts. No more tag-ins. No more prank family. Like he could erase himself the way they tried to erase me. Ashley went quiet too. Social accounts wiped. No memories, no updates. Just silence. The kind she never could tolerate, until it was the only move left. And I'll be honest, I didn't feel happy watching it. I felt something colder and steadier. Fair. Because consequences don't always need revenge. Sometimes they arrive all on their own, right on time. Sarah and I got married the way I didn't know people still could. Quiet, real, no gimmicks. A wedding, not a show. No ring light, no content. Just family, close friends, and a simple vow that didn't need a comment section to be true. My parents flew in. I picked them up at the airport and didn't feel that old shame crawling up my neck. I didn't feel like I had to explain myself. My mom hugged me like she'd been holding her breath for years. My dad gripped my shoulder and said, "Proud of you," like it was the only thing that mattered. I still kept therapy on the calendar, once a month, sometimes more. Not because I was broken, because I refused to pretend scars don't exist. I learned how to laugh when something's actually funny, not the tight little laugh you use to survive. A real one, from your chest. And standing there beside Sarah, watching our families mingle like it was normal, I realized something simple. Real love doesn't need to be proven in public. It just needs to be lived. Every once in a while, I still think about that Loves Off I-40. The heat, the shimmer on the road, the way my throat felt like it was made of dust, and the laughter, high and sharp, cutting through the air like it owned me. I'll be honest, the memory doesn't vanish. It just changes shape. I don't replay it to punish myself anymore. I replay it like a marker on a map. This is where you stopped begging for respect. Because the real moment wasn't when they drove away. It was when Earl pulled up and asked, "You all right, son?" And I said, "I need to leave." The second I climbed into that truck, I chose life. I chose dignity. I chose not to be anybody's joke. Nobody rescued me. Not really. Earl offered a seat. The law offered paper. Sarah offered peace. But the decision was mine. Sometimes I look at Sarah across our kitchen, just regular light, regular morning, and I feel something I didn't have back then, a future that doesn't scare me. And the truth is, they left me behind, but I'm the one who walked away. Here's what I learned the hard way. 1. When a prank keeps coming back, when the joke is always you, it stops being humor. It's humiliation. And humiliation on repeat is abuse, no matter how cute they make the caption. 2. Survival isn't just water and shade. It's keeping your mind from getting crushed into a version of you that apologizes for everything. It's waking up without flinching at laughter. 3. Real love is a place you can breathe. It's not a stage. It doesn't need an audience, a upload, or a reaction. And 4, this one's for the men who were raised to take it and be tough. Your dignity starts with boundaries, not anger, not revenge, a clean line. Because sometimes the biggest win isn't making them pay. It's leaving and never walking back into the same disrespect. So here's my question. Have you ever been the punchline in your own home? If you have, drop a comment. I've been there. And if you're choosing yourself today, hit subscribe and stay with me. You're not alone.